That's right, today we're going to be talking about Searing Doom, and I've got it on pause here as there is some Vanguard shenanigans to get through. This is a replay from Falcon, from the single faction tourney. He's playing as the Knights of Caledor here. He's got 5 Shadow Warriors, bunch of Silver Helms and Illyrian Reavers, 2 War Lions, what is this, 3 Reavers, 2 Silver Helms, Frostheart Phoenix, and of course the Metal Archmage. Against a massive horde of Gobbos under the Crooked Moon. Of course, we've got Skarsnik, then Goblin Big Boss, a couple of Stone Trolls, River Troll Hag, a whole bunch of Skirmish Cav, 6 Skirmish Cav, obligatory, tons of Night Goblins, and a few boys. So mostly in theme army. There's a handful of Orcs and Trolls, but mostly all Goblins. And yeah, let's see what this Metal Archmage can do. The Frostheart Phoenix, of course, as well. Going to be talking about him soon, but just keep an eye on his damage value throughout the course of the battle. But Searing Doom, so what does it offer? Basically, the best, most cost-effective bombardment spell in the game in terms of damage output on infantry or cavalry, especially cavalry, I would say. It's kind of should be seen as almost like an anti-cavalry specialist spell, but also works great against blobs of infantry as well. Only 6 Winds of Magic for the basic one, which I would generally recommend only ever casting the basic one, unless you specifically want to hit a pretty large blob. But of course, metal shifting as well with Lore of Metal. You've also got Plague of Rust. Just in general, an awesome Lore of Magic to have as the High Elves come in with a big old Rider of Rohan charge in the front. Well, it's not actually Rider of Rohan, the player, but you know what I mean. The River Troll Hag, and the Troll is going to kind of countercharge back in here. High Elves pulling back, getting ready for another timing push. This is sort of the Archer Cav style of build where you just use the cavalry to kind of plug gaps and push back your opponent, disrupt their advance. All the meanwhile shooting in with the archers. Got a nice Searing Doom placement as well. It's going to do a little bit of friendly fire, but also just tears apart a bunch of those nasty skulkers. They do manage to get the smoke bomb off on the Reavers though. A little bit unfortunate there. They're going to get caught up and dragged down. Same thing here in the center. The Reavers taking severe damage along with the War Lions and even the Silver Helms. But Frostheart Phoenix does come in at the very least and cause some terror. Actually helps shatter these Stone Trolls. Plague of Rust on them to help debuff their armor so that shock cavalry charge would do a little bit more damage. Love to see that. Great use of Lore of Metal once again. The 8-peak loons, though, they're unbreakable. They're going to keep fighting here in the center. Gobbo Big Boss also can throw that character debuff up on the Archmage, so she's got to be a little bit careful in this situation. The Fungi was used on the Frostheart Phoenix to debuff its decent melee defense, and now it's just getting shredded by Skarsnik. We've got Fanatics cast through the center, but another Searing Doom popping off on the Orc boys. Not so much damage on them as they weren't too blobbed up, but maybe 10% of their HP in terms of damage. And the Archmage charges over onto them. You can see the Illyrian Reavers coming to potentially try and bail her out, or at the very least push away some of these very tattered leadership units. Nice kind of Cav and Lion blob formed up. Going to be charging around and once again striking this Night Goblin unit, just trying to nuke their leadership. Another Plague of Rust. They all turn around and go after those Stone Trolls, targeting them. Armor piercing on the Lions, and just the charge bonus weapon strength of the cavalry should win out here. Stone Trolls don't have much in terms of support. They're also getting shot in the back by those Shadow Warriors, who are, of course, going to be paying out really nice value. The Frostheart Phoenix, unfortunately, does rout. Let's look at the damage value. Yeah, less than 200 damage output. I mean, it's gotten some key terror routes, but let's come back to that in just a minute. Oh man, here we go, missing a massive Searing Doom, the actual highlight. Again, this is one of the few times you would want to overcast to hit this giant blob of Skirmish Cavalry. Just does a ton of damage there. Archmage up to 125 kills on those Searing Dooms and kind of charging around, utilizing the Eagle aggressively as well. Yeah, a really big old blob of Greenskins Skirmish Cav. It's very much an ideal use case for that Searing Doom. I've showcased it on my channel quite a bit in the past, but yeah, it's just great, even against heavy cavalry as well. Not so good against armored infantry, but even armored cavalry, it seems like for whatever reason they take quite a bit more damage. Maybe it's just because more of the projectiles are actually hitting each unit model, since they, larger hitbox, since maybe they can't get knocked to the ground as well. They also take the full brunt of the damage from that. But yeah, definitely my favorite bombardment spell right now, and I do believe them by far the most cost effective. Like Warp Lightning, still pretty solid. Uranus Thunderbolt's okay, but for the most part, like, it's one of the few cheap ones that actually will consistently pay out Really nice value. The River Troll Hag there just getting slain by the Archmage and the regrouped Phoenix here. Skarsnik still holding out in the balance of power, actually pretty significantly against the High Elves, as almost all of their mobile forces have been routed. Shattered, not quite shattered, but routed. We've still got a few Shadow Warriors hanging on, but they're just about out of ammunition left. But here we go. The Archmage and the Frostart Phoenix now coming in, going after Skarsnik directly. Another nice Searing Doom. Pressure those cavalry away so they can't just sit and shoot. They're instead forced to charge in, which is maybe something to that. They're going to get a little bit of a buff here, but Frostart Phoenix eats a few more hits. And in fact, dies to Skarsnik here. Yep, there it is. But the Eagle Archmage can now finish him off. You know, Frostart Phoenix, it's meant to be a little bit of a tank-type monster. Like, it's not necessarily, people would say, it's not meant to deal all that much damage, which is true to a degree. They did manage to tank some damage right in the face there from Skarsnik, but now, balance of power tipping pretty decisively. We've got a lot of these mobile units regrouping for the High Elves. Waz popped to help shore up leadership and get a little bit of attack in some key situations, but a lot of these units are going to be shattering here. Some do come back, but as long as these Stone Trolls especially, oh, they do come back. If they're able to regenerate too much of their health, it'll be bad, but nope, looks like they're actually going to almost immediately break again. Some kind of UI bug happening there, but yep, they immediately shatter as soon as they come close to those Cav. Skarsnik taking more and more damage, probably going to get finished off here by the Metal Mage. And that will be game. So very well played. This is, in fact, the third game that Falcon played. I'm going to be showing one other and talk a little bit more about the Frost Phoenix upcoming. So stay tuned for that in the next couple of days. But I wanted to show this one off first just because beautiful use of Searing Doom there, especially against that big Cav blob. And, I mean, the Archmage, 140 kills, 2,666 damage value. About to rack up a little bit more here. Charging this Gobbo Big Boss, who is not actually on a mount. Typically you would see him on a spider, but he's just rolling on foot. Which, you know, his mass is still so light that he will consistently get knocked around, unlike a lot of other characters on foot, so probably best to at least bring him on the wolf, if nothing else. He gets taken out, and then that is game. The army losses very shortly. Yep, there we go, so awesome stuff. Very well played to Falcon there and Dr. Krokosic? I don't know. But yeah, 140 kills there. 2,843 damage value from the Metal Archmage. Quite impressive, honestly. Searing Doom is one of those spells. I think it's the best bombardment spell in the game, and yet I don't see it used all that often. Like, generally, when people think about Lore of Metal, they tend to focus in on Plague of Rust, deservedly so, and Final Transmutation, which, don't get me wrong, Final Transmutation's great. Plague of Rust is also one of my favorite spells, but Searing Doom is one that you should not overlook, especially if you're in a matchup where you are worried about any form of cavalry, whether that's light skirmish cavalry, heavy cavalry, infantry as well, especially like higher mass infantry that tend not to get knocked over as easily, that probably will take more damage from the Searing Doom, but just in general, a super cheap, cost-effective damage spell, and definitely proved as such in this battle. In terms of the rest, yeah, the Shadow Warriors, easily this video could have been about them, but I do believe I've made a video about them in the past, so do check that out. They paid out great damage value and provided actually the majority of the damage here. I mean, a few of the Reavers actually pay for themselves, but in large part, the Shock Cavalry and Lions here kind of just get eaten as they hold back the tide, the green tide, so to speak. Same thing with the Frostheart Phoenix, which, man, like, I get it's meant to be a tank monster, but this is just appalling in terms of damage output. Anyway, Skarsnik does a decent job, but ends up getting killed in the end. Same thing with the River Troll Hag. Nice catches there. The Fanatics, man, these Fanatics just get an insane amount of damage on the cavalry, and just in general, super cost-effective. If you have the micro to use all the Fanatics consistently, they are one of the strongest infantry units in the game, probably, arguably. But anyway, the Skirmish Cav has a little bit tougher of a time. They don't really pay out all that much, and a lot of that's due to the Searing Doom. Yeah, Stone Trolls likewise also don't pay out. Falcon did a good job of focusing them. Orc Boys do, but I mean, hey, if all this infantry pays out, but the actual power units don't, that's quite okay, right? That'll probably, end up leading to a victory. So, in terms of, yeah, bombardment spells, I mean, there are certainly other bombardment spells that do more damage overall. Like, obviously, you've got the Piercing Bolts of Burning, which is not actually super expensive in comparison. I mean, this is 6 Winds of Magic versus 11, and 11's not too much, but this thing does have a pretty long wind-up time, so it's relatively easy to dodge, and yeah, I mean, it is more Winds of Magic, and more importantly, a lot more gold to bring, right? 200 gold on that versus only, yeah, 50 gold for Searing Doom for Balthazar is super cost-effective, right? So, the kind of the Lightning Strike ones, Uranus Thunderbolt, not really great. Warp Lightning is probably the one in my mind that would maybe have the argument, just because, again, relatively cheap, cost-effective, but even then, with Skaven, typically you're wanting to use your magic on summons, right? Rather than on damage output spells. 6 Winds of Magic, and it's, again, okay, but still less damage output, I feel, than Searing Doom right now. So, definitely an awesome spell. Yeah, I would recommend anytime you're bringing Lore of Metal. I mean, it's not super expensive to just take Searing Doom just in case, and especially in matchups where you might be coming up against, again, a lot of cavalry. Even if it's light skirmish cavalry like what we saw there, you can still get good value because it has a relatively short cast time. Missiles move relatively fast. You know, get some good value out of it, even if you're just forcing your opponent to move as well, which, I mean, 10 Winds of Magic for the large strike area, maybe not worth it, but it can tactically be, especially if it's like a, let's say, a armor-piercing missile cavalry unit, like, I don't know, Dark Riders with crossbows, just as an example, and they're shooting one of your high-value targets. Even if you just cast Searing Doom and they, you know, move to dodge it, you're still forcing them out of position and potentially buying yourself a little bit of time to reposition your own forces or move something in to potentially catch the Dark Riders. You know, there's just a lot of opportunity with that spell, so definitely recommend Searing Doom. And yeah, thanks to Falcon for sending those replays in. We'll be showcasing another one here shortly, so stay tuned for that. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.